So yeah, I'm Carl Hayden Smith. Thanks for the intro. I guess my inspiration for this project is a lot of extraordinary experiences I've had. Things like parallel processing, having sort of multiple states of consciousness in parallel. And I just wanted to start with a quote from one of our collaborators, Jay Cousins, whose birthday it is today. I just wanted to start with him. How do we recognize what is forest when we don't even recognize what is human? We clear the understory in the same way we scrub our outer biome, removing essential elements and leaving areas barren and vulnerable. Over to you, Rosie.
Okay, so hello, I'm Rosie. That's such a great intro, so I don't think I need to introduce myself further. So if we move on. So the problem. Humans believe that they are separate and above nature. There is a culture that humans have the ultimate intelligence and that anything other than human intelligence is less than. These two factors have a major impact on how humans mistreat their environment. This also impacts on the neurodiverse community, creating a feeling of being inadequate.
So yeah, humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect. So we're really interested in how do we shift perception ultimately? What is it that's going to shift behavior change from this sort of we're the king of the jungle, we're top of the food chain, to basically perceiving more around this nested ecology idea that we are part of a nested ecology and we depend on the tiny things as well as other things. So the methodology that we've come up with, we've formed quite an elaborate group of experts in the field, and we've also looked at other attempts to Umwelt hack, which is essentially what we're trying to do. How do we sense like a forest? How do we sense like a mycelium network or an octopus? And the people that we're looking at, people like David Abrams, Charles Foster, who wrote a brilliant book, Being a Beast, where he lives as a badger, a deer, an otter, an urban fox, and even attempts to be a swift. And then our good friends Marshmallow Laserfeast, who have done a lot of work in this Umwelt hacking area, thinking of projects like In the Eyes of the Animal. So we're focusing on three kingdoms. Mycelium, for instance, used to be considered to be, basically, plant-based or vegetables, and now they're considered, their own kingdom. So we're looking at plants, as in what's it like to sense like a forest, what's it like to sense like a mycelium, and also the animal kingdom, what's it like to be an octopus. So we're creating prototype prosthetics to explore this area, and we're testing those on a variety of users, including the neurodiverse. And then it's an iterative cycle, so we're then creating more prototypes following the feedback.
So the project's in its early stages. The first kingdom we're looking at is octopus. One of the most interesting things we discovered is that they are the only creatures to develop a radically different brain from our own. Octopus have a brain in each arm, so they can partially decide to move their arms and partially watch them go, and their skin can feel, taste, and sense light. This made me imagine that tactility was a core value to an octopus. I explored ways of amplifying sensation in the skin. I imagine that by giving our human body parts amplified tactility and more sensation through whiskers, each arm becomes more kinesthetically intelligent, sentient, and curious, and we can experience the world more like an octopus. So this is my most recent prototype, the whisker suit. This experiment is about becoming more somatic and valuing the kinesthetic understanding of the octopus, putting on the suit and being playful with your environment. In considering how human senses are different from an octopus, it's also important to consider how differently we sense from each other. To celebrate and value neurodiversity, I sent a tool of hackable whisker packs to several groups of people, including the visually impaired performers, dyspraxics, and makers, believing that they'd have a unique perspective on tactility. I left how they should use or modify the whiskers open-ended, as I really wanted to encourage user-led, ambiguous play and co-design. And next there's a video, someone using the whiskers. So this is one of my favorite hacks. This person connected all the whiskers together to make the sensation travel up her body. As she played with the whisker on her hand, she'd feel it up her arm. Her feedback, my favorite quote from her was, "I had to really focus, creating quite a mindful experience. I found myself rediscovering common objects in a brand new way. It felt like a whole new sensation." So the second kingdom we're looking into is forest. And an early playful prototype I created designed for forest is wind whiskers, which respond to the wind around them by tugging the skin, as a prototype to consider what it'd be like to sense like a forest. I gave some of the whiskers to Carl, and he can give us his response.
Yeah, so I actually went to a forest, got my niece to attach a lot of these whiskers, and yeah, it was an immediate and powerful sensation of extension. And I just love this idea that we don't necessarily need to go down a sort of a technocentric route. We can use the analog, we can extend the body with these prosthetics. And it's, for me, much less a transhumanist approach and more of a hyperhumanist approach, where we start to unlock our own innate human abilities rather than become dependent on the machine. So the third section is the mycelium. And again, I've had just a recent experience of having a power cut at my flat, where we've got 150 people in the block, and as a result, it's central London, so you don't expect power cuts, but the power went out for a few hours, and it was quite amazing because we've got this WhatsApp back channel with this group where everyone's on the WhatsApp group, and suddenly everyone was talking about, oh, I'm running out of power, I've got 2 bars left on my phone, and other people were saying, oh, I've got a full battery pack, I can bring it over. So people were sharing resources. Suddenly we were a mycelium network, and again, it was just unexpected, but it was like, okay, so I'm embodying that sensation, and we think that it's so important to experience this kind of intelligence where underneath our feet there's a tremendous intelligence in the mycelium networks, talking to the trees and sharing nutrients. And I think that if we could see that, maybe potentially using something like mixed reality, then you would have a psychedelic experience, because you would suddenly understand that we don't have to go down this capitalist route, that there are other ways of being. And I just wanted to show a little video on that.
Trees may look like solitary individuals, but the ground beneath our feet tells a different story. Trees are secretly talking, trading...
Sorry, Carl, we can't see the video now.
They do this using a network of fungi that grow around...
Yeah, that's good.
Try again. Is that okay? Give me 1 sec.
Trees may look like solitary individuals, but the ground beneath our feet tells a different story. Trees are secretly talking, trading, and waging war on one another. They do this using a network of fungi that grow around and inside their roots. The fungi provide the trees with nutrients, and in return they receive sugars. But scientists have found this connection runs far deeper than first thought. By plugging into the fungal network, trees can share resources with each other. The system has been nicknamed the Wood Wide Web. It's thought that older trees, fondly known as mother trees, use this fungal network to supply shaded seedlings with sugars, giving them a better chance of survival. Those trees that are sick or dying may dump their resources into the network, which might then be used by healthier neighbours. Plants also use fungi to send messages to one another. If they're attacked, they can release chemical signals through their roots, which can warn their neighbours to raise their defences. But like our internet, the Wood Wide Web has its dark side too. Some orchids hack the system to steal resources from nearby trees, and other species, like the black walnut, spread toxic chemicals through the network to sabotage their rivals. Arboreal cybercrime aside, scientists are still debating why plants seem to behave in such an altruistic way. The hidden network creates a thriving community between individuals. When you're next in woodland, you might like to think of trees as part of a big superorganism, chatting and swapping information and food under your feet.
So yeah, so I really like that, especially the dark side of things. So what we're trying to really do here, alongside the prosthetics, is to create an umwelt hacking framework. And I think that there are many things. If that's why we've got our group of experts together. It's to understand, how do we stack experiences in order to go anywhere near sensing the other. And I really like, again, this quote from Jay. We can only achieve umwelt hacking if we have a good foundational nature connection. Otherwise, prosthetics can risk alienating us even more. I try and use my hands before the spade. We have a different awareness of fiber when we have to rip, tear, chomp, and chew it. So to begin, perhaps, it's about tool reduction before augmentation. So yeah, a foundation there of having some nature connection. But then maybe we could use prosthetics to actually disable the human. So many of us are addicted and distracted endlessly by data and by our phones. So, if we could disable our access to our phones or change our perception of time, those would be a good foundations in the stack. And then it's about, observing what the forests themselves are paying attention to. What's the fungi paying attention to? So we should be sitting, observing, and then using the imagination to look at these complex nutrient exchanges. And I think imagination is a key word here, where we know there's an atrophy of the imagination, primarily because of the distraction economy. Every time we step into a queue, we're immediately getting our phones out. Daydreaming has gone. So just like our senses, we need to train and activate them. And just, this is a bit of a comical one, but mushrooms can't move and neither can trees. So maybe we need to bury ourselves in order to be sensing in their sort of realms. And then another quote from Satori: when you can read nature and decipher the stories of why things look the way they do, you can slip into the memory trace of the animals that left the tracks. The same is true for intuitive herbalists and probably true for indigenous mycologists. Sorry. Oh. So yes, so thanks very much. That's our presentation. We are planning some umwelt hacking retreats, and also we're going to be sending out more of these experimental prosthetics.